Everyone, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be chatting through my April TBR, and I think for pretty obvious reasons I have a lot of books on my TBR because, in full transparency, I'm not really doing much these days besides watching TV and movies, Animal Crossing, and reading. That being said, today is April 4th and I've already read 2 books this month, which I will chat through quickly as they're a part of my TBR. But there's also a few readathons happening this month, which I'm really excited about, and a few of these books I do plan to have on that TBR. There's gonna be a reading rush specifically. I'll have a link down below to Ariel's announcement. I'm definitely participating and I will vlog, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the video. So the first 3 books I'm gonna chat through is part of my romance journey. So late last month I read Bringing Down the Duke and I absolutely loved it, and it kind of sent me down this spiral of just wanting more fun historical fiction rom-com centered romance stories that have modern pillars of romance. There's consent and like a good equal dynamic between characters, but has the trappings and the fun of a Victorian era setting and a duke and all of that. So many of you guys gave me recommendations. Many of you actually gave me the same one, which is the one I decided to check out, and that is the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. I've already read 2 out of 3 of these books. I will save my thoughts, spoiler, I love them, to the end of the month, but to quickly go through all of them. The first one is The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. The second one is The Governess Game, and the third one is The Wallflower Bargain or Wager, I think it's called. Each one of these books follows a different girl within a friend group, and they all meet some sort of attractive, damaged duke, and they fall in love in some sort of way, and it's hilarious and witty. Tessa Dare's writing is so funny. She's really great at creating amazing chemistry with hilarious dialogue between characters. They also present like different situations. The first one is a marriage of convenience story. The second one is a governess story, and the one I think I've loved the most so far basically follows a girl who helps a reformed rake kind of character. She becomes the governess of his 2 wards that kind of like fell into his house, and it's kind of all about like family. It's super wholesome and adorable. And I'm currently reading The Wallflower Wager, which follows the 3rd friend within this group. They're all steamy, funny, romantic, adorable, and they have personally been a really great escape for me. They're really entertaining. I've flown through all of them in like 24 hours. So I'm gonna plan on reading all 3 of these books, and I'm gonna be really sad when I catch up on this series and I don't quite know what to read next. So if you have recommendations, let me know down below. But moving on from there, I am trying to push myself to read more fantasy again now that I've read 4 historical fiction romance novels in a row. The first book on that list is God's Grave by J. Kristoff. This is book 2 to the Nevernight Chronicle series. I read book 1 back in January and I really liked it. This is a very dark, very violent, comical fantasy series following a female assassin. The first one, we follow her with an assassin school, and the sequel, I'm assuming we're gonna follow her at the fallout of what happened at the end of her year at assassin school. This is definitely a very dark, cheeky adult fantasy series. I really like the main character. The magic is really interesting. Our main character is able to control and compel shadows, so I'm excited to see where the story kind of takes off from here. And yeah, I really feel like this will be a good one for a readathon. I should fly through it. Given that I've been reading so much romance, and I did read Crescent City last month, I want to read a little more urban fantasy, so I'm trying to push myself to read Stone Cold Touch by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I've read White Hot Kiss a while ago now, and I had meant to continue on with the rest of the series, and I really feel like this is a really great, entertaining, light urban fantasy read for me to pick up. But this follows our main character who's half demon, half gargoyle, and this is a world where demons and gargoyles exist. Gargoyles protect humanity from evil demons, and our main character is kind of stuck between these 2 worlds, starts to see a really hot demon guy, has a complicated relationship with her like gargoyle best friend. It's great, very entertaining. Jennifer L. Armentrout's really good at writing angsty romance between 2 people, so I'm excited to see how this story continues to unfurl. I really liked the first one, as well as the first book in the spin-off series, so I'm excited to get caught up on this. Next up, I want to pick up Middlegame by Sean McGuire. This is a sort of God-centered story following 2 people that aren't quite gods, but kind of are halfway there, and I think we don't want them to fully attain godhood. I hear it's really dark, really interesting. I really love this sort of concept when it comes to a book, this sort of reaching for an inattainable source of power and really the fallout of those decisions and how they impact everyone else. I also just like following the concept of gods within fantasy novels. I really like how they contrast humanity in that gods tend to be really fixed and have really focused ideas and are really unbendable, whereas humans are very dynamic creatures, and I really love the contrast and the conflict of that. So I'm excited to read this. This has definitely been on my list and one of the books I really wanted to read this spring, and again, I've heard really good things, and for some reason I feel like while this is longer, it's a book I'll really fly through. Next up, I want to pick up The Thief's Daughter by Jeff Wheeler. I read book 1 to the King Fountain series last month, and I really want to continue on with this series. I reread the first one with the hopes that I would actually continue on, so I'm really gonna push myself to pick up book 2. I really loved the first novel. It follows our main character Owen, who's basically a court hostage within the king's castle. Basically his father kind of committed some political treason, so therefore Owen is kind of kept there as a political pawn and to prevent his father from committing further acts against the king. Owen, as our main character in the first one, is 8 years old, and he's kind of navigating the court politics for the first time. I really love how Jeff Wheeler writes the perspective of a child. I find them to be very endearing and smart and naive and very capable. He definitely doesn't talk down to a child main character. He kind of celebrates their unique point of view, and I really love reading about Owen, and I think this might be about the main female main character based on the things that happened at the end of the first one, whom I also love, and how Owen and her adventures together were so charming and adorable. So I'm excited to see how this fantasy story continues to evolve. I think they get older within this one, and I'm excited. I know there's a lot of books in this, so it's a good time to start a long fantasy series, so I'm excited to see how this whole thing plays out. Next up, I want to read the third and final book of the Inheritance trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This is a God-centered fantasy story that I have been loving since the beginning of this year. I've already obviously read the first 2 books very quickly, and I know the third book is going to be so good. This is kind of set in a world. Each book is kind of its own contained story, but is dealing with the aftermath and the impact of the previous books, I'm pretty sure. Therefore, you kind of focus on new main characters, but like the consequences and the outcomes of the previous books are there. The first 2 books were basically occurring right after each other, but again, follow different main characters, and I loved them so much. Throughout this entire series, they're kind of, again, exploring that God-human dynamic, this all-powerful being who, through so much time, kind of loses touch on their impact and can be very, like, focused in their attention and their point of view versus humanity who's more dynamic, and this conflict, and how some gods really resent humanity but perhaps need to grow and accept them, all of that. So I'm excited to see how the third book continues on with this story. Beautiful and an exceptional writer. I feel like all of her plots are so engaging and very harrowing. I feel like you really earn every good thing that happens in these books because there's always some sort of like heartbreak right around the corner, but everything is like so well balanced and well thought out. I love N.K. Jemisin's writing. She's so talented, and all of her fantasy novels are just exceptional. Next up on my TBR is The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. I honestly just really need to read this book. It's been on TBRs for months. I've been putting it off and putting it off. I really want to continue on with the Farseer trilogy, which I really enjoyed the first one. I don't know, I think because it's something like I feel like I'm gonna like, but because I wasn't like so blown away by the first one, I'm just like, this might be a little slow. I don't know if I want to read it, but I'm gonna push myself to read it this month because I need to. I really want to get through the 3 first books within this trilogy before summertime, so that means I need to pick this up. So this is on my TBR. It's gonna happen. Someone yell at me if it doesn't. The last book that's on my TBR is The Dangerous Alliance, which is a Regency romance novel because I am trash and all I want to actually read is Regency romance, so I'm just gonna do it. This is a Jane Austen inspired love story where it's essentially following our main character who is like in the time period reading Jane Austen, who is a peer of hers at the time. Like, Jane Austen's books are coming out as our main character is reading them. She basically uses the exploits and the different characters and the romance within those to try to craft her own. And she's kind of in a perilous situation where she needs to make a strong match to be able to provide herself security and among other things of a woman during this time. So it sounds really fun and cute. And I also hear it has some really fun plot dynamics, so I feel like it's gonna have a lot of good plot movement outside of just the romance component. So I obviously have been loving Regency romance a lot, so I'm excited to see this play out. And you know, I just love Pride and Prejudice, so any type of Pride and Prejudice-esque story, I'm here for. Alrighty guys, those are all the books on my April TBR. Let me know down below some books you hope to read this month, as I would love to know, and please give me Regency romance recommendations, I beg you. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!